G'day guys, Andrew from Fanatics here. How you going? I'm basically thought I will do a sneaky little review, bit of a comparison between the Vallejo Xpress color, which is Vallejo's their own contrast line, and the one and only Citadel color contrast. So yeah, basically, as most of you probably know, I'm putting together a heap of Hobgrot slitters if you're watching the show. And yeah, I just thought, well, I'll probably start just smashing out some contrast for these guys because it's going to save me an absolute bucket load of time. As you all probably know, well, obviously Citadel is sort of like the main leader in the contrast line. They've got quite a few pots compared to their competitors. So you've got obviously your Vallejo range, there's speed paints, there's quite a few others. I think there's about four or five different contrast lines out there at the moment. But yeah, I just wanted to try something else out. I usually use Vallejo for a lot of my other paints, so I've got a mixture between Citadel and Vallejo, and I really do rate the Vallejo. They have some pretty good products. Yeah, and as everyone knows, the Citadel contrast is sort of like taking the hobby by storm a bit. Cuts down painting, you can smash an army out like really, really quick. And obviously you can definitely just use it as a base layer, highlight up from there. So it doesn't just have to be contrast. You can just use it as sort of like more of a quick way of base coating in a sense. So yeah, we'll get into this review and see how we went. So yesterday actually I went out and I did some zenithal priming onto some of my Hobgrot slitters. You might have to excuse it because it was a really, really hot and humid day. Probably the worst kind of weather for spray painting, but hey, I went and did it anyway because I wanted to get this done. So this is my first guy here. So it's actually the spray paint just didn't come out quite as fine, not quite grainy, but yeah, it just didn't have quite a fine coverage. So yeah, it was a little bit speckly in parts. So yeah, this is the Citadel contrast color is what is it? Nasdreg yellow. I probably went a little bit heavy, as some of you can probably tell. So it did get quite dark, although obviously it is a zenithal priming. Just where it was dark, it really, really made it super dark. And in some of the recesses, it's obviously like a little bit dark as well. But I do like the coverage. The coverage was really, really nice. You sort of got a lot for the amount of paint that sort of like you put onto your brush. Yeah, just covered very, very nicely. And I really, really rated the color I was getting out of those recesses. But yeah, definitely if I was doing the whole army, I'd just make sure I didn't probably put as much contrast on as what I did here. And it dried actually quite nice and quick. So yeah, I definitely rated this one. It moved around, it got in the recesses very well. I'd rate it definitely a 9 out of 10. Comes in an 18mm pot. Not the cheapest, as most Citadel colors you will know out there. It's, you know, Australia, we're pushing about $12 for a pot of that. So the next one I'm going to do is the standard Vallejo Xpress color. Rotten Flesh is the color tone that we're going for here. And this guy is the guy that I painted up with the Rotten Flesh. So straight away you can definitely see it's not as dark. In the recesses, there just wasn't as much pigmentation. It's not terrible, mind you, at all. It did cover not too bad, but I did find I had to definitely try and move it around and really manipulate it into those recesses just to get that sort of effect. You can also just tell that the coverage with pigmentation, it's definitely not as strong as a Citadel. So it definitely seems like a little bit weaker. I have heard from these that you can require 2 passes, so 2 coats, to get a really nice consistency. some people might like that from a control perspective, but to me, if you are using these paints, just trying to smash out painting and get, the quick effect that contrast gives you, then obviously, to me, if you're doing 2 coats, you're sort of defeating the purpose with that. So yeah, not bad, but yeah, definitely for me, not as good as the Citadel. That was the Express color there, just their standard. Next one I'm doing is Express color Intense, so the Intense range. This is Dreadnought Yellow. It does look really beautiful. I love that coloring that they've got in the pot. It's really, really nice. And this is how he came up, this guy here. So I'll just wait for that to come into focus. There we go. So this paint was a really, really nice happy medium for me between the Citadel contrast and the standard Express. So it got some really nice, and it's a yellow, and as most people know, yellow can be a bit of a pain with the way how opaque it is and getting coverage, but to me it did get some nice coverage. Pulled nicely, it moved around pretty nicely, I found. It gave, for me, a pretty good 1 coat. I was pretty impressed with what this was. And for these, I was looking at about $7 a pot. The 2 pots from the Vallejo come in at 18 mil. So they're exactly, you get the same amount as the Citadel. But the best thing is, as everyone knows with the Vallejos, you get in a dropper. And most people like a dropper. I'm one of those as well. I do like a dropper. The only thing with contrast I do find is that, I'm not usually mixing up a contrast, so the dropper's probably sometimes not quite as advantageous compared to like using it as a standard paint. Whereas with the pot, you can definitely just dip out and take what you need, and it kind of sucks up in your brush quite nicely, the old contrast paint. So the dropper bottles probably aren't as important when it comes to contrast, but I do like the dropper bottles. They're a smaller sort of bottle. They take up less space. For me, I do like the lids as well. They just tend to not be as messy as your standard Citadel pots. Yeah, definitely for me, this guy's coming in at a good 8.5. The one thing I will mention between the 2 Vallejo Expresses and the GW contrast is I could not believe the drying time difference between the two Express colors. So the Vallejo paints were easily, I'd say, double the time of the Citadel. It was quite a hot night when I was painting. Did these last night, and I could not believe the difference. So like where it pooled in the recesses, that just seemed to take a long time to dry. If you're trying to smash a bunch of models out, and you really, you want them to dry so you can do highlighting or start another color for contrast, you just want to dry a model. Obviously, you're going to have to factor in that extra dry time. So for me, that was a bit of a factor. Definitely worth mentioning anyway. But yeah, I'd say from a price point, the Vallejo color Intense is definitely worth considering and giving it a go, because it was significantly cheaper than the Citadel, and I found it did, besides the dry time, I like the end finish. I think it's really good. The only problem is obviously the Vallejo range is a lot smaller range of colors at the moment than the Citadel. So Citadel's got a larger color selection with their contrast paints. But besides that, yeah, I'd definitely recommend giving it a go if you think that is what you're looking for, especially a cheaper price point. And that does come with a special Express color thinner as well, if you want to thin your paints to more of a lighter wash, I suppose. But for me, they're pretty much, it's a lighter body wash anyway. For me, it's like a heavier body would definitely be your Citadel contrast color. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for listening in. And yeah, if you are looking for that cheaper option, I definitely recommend giving the Vallejos a go. And I'll catch you guys in a couple of days for our next episode. All right, thanks. Ciao. Bye.